Hi, my name is Presley Thorpe. Hopefully you are able to see me and hear me as well as see my presentation. Sorry if my audio and video lags a little bit. The term paper, topic, and presentation I chose was trees and their mutually symbiotic relationship with mycorrhizae. So, mutual symbiosis is a beneficial long-term relationship between two groups, two individuals, two organisms, and I think everyone can agree that it is nice when relationships are mutually beneficial regardless of what type of relationship it is. So, people appreciate when they can receive in turn for giving, because who wants to give all the time without getting anything in return? So trees and mycorrhizae form a mutually symbiotic relationship to each other. That is, they both benefit from this interaction they share, and they do this through the mycelium network. So let's take a look at trees. They make food through photosynthesis for themselves as well as for the fungi, and they do this through glucose sugars. They also allow fungi to anchor to them and have a stable place to root, and they use the mycorrhizae network to communicate and share nutrients and resources with other trees, including other species of plants and trees. And then the fungi, or the mycelium, find and absorb nutrients, water, and moisture from the soil to contribute back to the tree. These nutrients are usually nitrogen or phosphate, and hyphae increase the amount of nutrients and water available for the tree. They store the nutrients and water in vesicles inside of the cell roots so that plants can obtain and use these when temperatures get high or if it hasn't rained in a while. And here's a little picture representing this relationship. So for an example, Douglas fir, seen here, and birch trees, seen here, have been shown to share nutrients with each other during different seasons. So in the fall and sometimes the spring, Douglas firs are stronger sinks for carbon and nitrogen. They share these nutrients to birch trees that are leafless during this time. And then in the summertime, these birch trees are stronger sinks for carbon and nitrogen. They are also taller and they have more foliage, so they share nutrients to the Douglas fir trees. These nutrients are shared through osmosis, which is something we all should know about and have learned. It is something where if you have a higher concentration, it always gets transferred to something of a lower concentration. So in this case, birch tree has higher concentrations of carbon and nitrogen, so that gets transferred osmotically to a Douglas fir in the summertime, which would have lower concentrations. This can also be seen here, and this green represents ectomycorrhizal fungus and the carbon that is being shared between these two different species of trees. So mycorrhizae means root fungus. Myco is fungus, and the Latin term or root word rhiza is root. Mycorrhizae is the term for the associations between roots and fungi, and these are extremely important, and they have been around for about 400 million years. They are able to break rocks as well as improve soil structure. This mycorrhizal network impacts the growth, health, behavior, as well as survival of the trees and plants linked to it. They are widespread as well as habitual, and you can see these have no mycorrhizal fungi, whereas this has. So it has more white, more spores, more networks, it's more stable, there's more connection. Mycelium is the vegetative part of a fungus or mushroom and is made up of hyphae, which are these thread-like structures. And within those structures, you have the cell walls. So these threads and mycelium networks live in the soil among the roots of plants and trees, and the common mushrooms that make them up are usually just the general ones you can find in the woods that form these with trees. And the fungi live on top of the tree roots, and they sometimes bore into the tree roots as well. So let's take a look at different types of microbes. So here we have ectomycorrhizal fungi. These, ecto means external. These networks grow externally on top of the roots of trees and plants. They build vast, dense networks underground as they spread on top of roots in search of nutrients. They enjoy cool temperatures where organic matter and wood decay slowly, and they can be found in birch, oak, and conifer trees. So there are many different types of microbes, and each tree is closely associated with certain types that best work with them. There is also endo, which is internal. So endomycorrhizae grow inside of the cells of the roots as well as into the soil. They burrow into the root cells of trees and they make smaller soil webs rather than the dense sheaths over roots that ectomycorrhizae make. So these can be found in warmer tropics where organic matter and wood decay more quickly. And here I have a little image of the cells of ectomycorrhizae versus endo and some things about them. So big versus little trees. When you look at a forest, there's the big trees referred to as mother tree, and there's little trees which are sometimes called saplings or seedlings. Generally, taller, older, bigger trees help out the younger and smaller ones. They do this by sending nutrients through the fungal network that the young trees aren't able to access. So saplings usually don't get as much light that they need for photosynthesis and energy, and this can be due to the shading that they get from taller trees, so the sun is shaded from them. The root systems also aren't developed as much, and they're not as deep as older trees are, so they maybe can't access certain nutrients. Nutrients that get sent through these trees are usually phosphorus, potassium, and nitrogen, the ones that are the macronutrients for the trees. This can also happen when healthy trees receive additional resources from trees that are dying in order to help them combat a danger or disease. And they do this through warning signs. So trees are really fascinating. They are capable of sending warning signs or signals to other trees that may be in danger. For example, insect infestations as well as diseases can impact a tree and forests. Trees that are already affected are able to release chemicals through the mycelium network, and this allows them to warn other surrounding trees of the threat. This also allows trees to protect themselves by changing their biochemistry, morphology, and physiology. Trees can release chemicals to help them. They can do this through their tissues and send toxic ones to repel pests or insects. They're able to create compounds in the air by changing their biochemistry to attract natural enemies of a pest that is currently attacking them. This way, the enemy goes after what is bothering them to eliminate the threat. Trees are capable of changing their structure and their form, or their morphology. That is, they can grow or bend away from a dangerous situation or towards something beneficial. They're also capable of strengthening or putting up additional barriers to better protect themselves. Trees are also able to change their physiology based upon warning signs other trees are sending them. So that is, they can function differently based on what danger is present. And here's their availability. Mycorrhizal spores in the soil are actually dormant until they become in contact with or next to a plant root. Then the spores can germinate in or next to the root and inoculate the plant in order to form this beneficial symbiosis between the mycorrhiza and the plants. One spore digs into one root, and then this then produces more spores and more roots, creating a vast network. Mycorrhizal fungi can survive in the soil for a few years, especially if conditions are right, and endomycorrhizae are very resistant. They can live for years even if there's no plants or tree roots, or even after a plant or tree dies. These endomycorrhizal spores can't be blown around in the air though, because they are large, so their movement usually happens through soil and dust movement, or through water movement that carries the soil, or through they follow the movement of the roots in the soil. You can apply mycorrhizal fungus to plants that are struggling and have diseases, or just in general if you want to better strengthen the plant. When doing this, though, it is best to apply to multiple areas and multiple roots just to increase the chances of these mycorrhizal networks. Results and benefits will generally start to show within 2 months or less. And remember, certain plants and trees benefit from specific mycorrhizae, but generally you can use endomycorrhizae because they don't have a specific preference for hosts. But fungi also can be best selected to match the soil, as well as the pH of soil and organic matter content. And then some additional information is, if you are adding mycorrhizae and you want to use fertilizers, just note that high rates, especially of phosphorus fertilizers, can adversely affect the mycorrhizae formations. And I would not recommend using fungicides because obviously those inhibit mycorrhizae because they kill fungus. So I wouldn't really use those if you're trying to add or strengthen fungi and mycelium networks. As far as pesticides go, they don't seem to affect mycorrhizae in any negative way, so they may be used if needed or desired. And then compost, some are compatible with mycorrhizal and some are not. So those that have excess salts or nutrient contents can negatively affect mycorrhizae networks. And this is just some additional information, kind of like of what the theme of this was, which is mutual symbiosis and how trees and mycorrhizae help and protect one another, and then how and why this was compelling to me. But we are getting a little bit, I think, over 10 minutes, so I'm just going to stop it here. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you have a wonderful day.